welcoming Mythreyee Ganapathy, product lead of Google, and Kirti, Dhawaj Singh, the product manager for Google, to dive us deep into the topic, Agentic AI.
Hello everyone, can you hear me all right? Yes, no? Okay. Is everyone tired already since half the day is over? Okay, great. Is there more people to come in or should I get started? Most of them are here, okay. Well, it's great to be here in the city of Kakinada. It's my first time here. I'm originally from Kerala. Kakinada feels very much like home. It was lovely to see all the greenery and the coconut groves. But looking forward to seeing more of you all and the city as the day wears on. I lead a product team at Google. We deal in customer engagement and experiences. It's a very large surface area, has its own complexities. Some of the work that we are doing there is on Agentic AI. I won't go into what I do right now because some of it is confidential. But the topic we are going to cover today is mostly about Agentic AI. What is it? Think of it like an introductory talk because it is very vast. It's also fairly complex. So we won't be able to cover a lot of detail. Having said that, the way Kirti and Kirti is sitting in the audience, he's going to do a little demo for you to show you how we bring agentic scenarios together. So the way we'll do this is I'll talk a little bit and give you an introduction about the concept, how agentic AI works. Kirti will do a demo, and then we'd love to open up for Q&A because I think a lot of learning comes from exchange of ideas and not from just us talking to you all, just, one to many. There is an echo. Is it, it's okay? There's no echo? Everyone's able to hear me all right? Okay, awesome. Okay, so I think we can get started. I don't know if you're going to project or? Okay, great. All right, so like I said, I work at Google. My name is Mythreyee Ganapathy. I spent a lot of time of my first part of my career at Microsoft. I moved to Google about 4.5 years ago. The most interesting thing about my career journey that the students in the audience may find useful is that every time there's been a shift in technology, even starting with just the basic internet to what we used to call as B2B, business to business connectors, to the search engine technology, advertising, cloud computing. I've been a part of that. It's been a great learning experience for me along the way. AI and ML has been part of that journey for me, at least personally, all the way from 2005. But this shift that LLMs, generative AI, and now agentic AI brings is a learning journey for me as well. So I'm not an expert. I have a little bit more knowledge than maybe you all do because of my prior experience, and I'm able to bring it to bear onto this new technology. So we are all on a journey together. Let's figure it out as we go along. And that's what I meant by saying there should be exchange of ideas. Then we are able to actually have more learning together as a group. And we'll try as much as we can because it is a short time and a large audience. So what are we trying to talk about here? Agentic AI as a phrase many of you may have heard. Prior to agentic AI, there are other concepts which I just want to layer up in a stack for you so that you understand why agentic AI sits at the top, at least at this point in our technology shifts. So like I said, machine learning as a concept has been around. I don't know how many of you know this, but neural networks was actually built on top of machine learning. This has been around since 1995. So it's not a new concept per se, but I guess awareness, accessibility, and reach has increased significantly over the last 20 to 30 years. And so, when you think about it from machine learning all the way up to now, let's say AI on top of that, AI is more of it as predictive systems. So if those of you have built ML models and have done use techniques like classification or doing prediction, that's typically an application of AI, right? So if those of you are familiar with applications like, well, Amazon, because they recommend products that you should be buying, that is an AI prediction technology. When Spotify as a music app gives you a playlist based on your listening habits, that is an AI prediction technology. When inventory systems and or transportation systems decide to group similar objects together for various application purposes, that is a classification purpose. So you are all familiar with how AI has been used in these situations in the past. Around 2022, when ChatGPT came out with, OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, generative AI became very popular as a concept, but it was built on LLMs or large language models. And the reason why they're very interesting is because they have the capability to build large, long context of the order of millions of tokens in its memory and create content summarization or content generation on top of that context. Now, what's interesting about Agentic AI is that Agentic AI enables us to do more than just interact as an individual with these types of technologies. It creates the ability for technology to interact with itself. And this is a fundamental shift that Agentic AI brings. And then I'll talk a little bit more about what that means and why that is important. So what do I mean by moving from passive tools to active agents? What I just described to you is technically passive. Now, I know this is a slightly difficult concept for some of us to get because some of us may think, well, what's passive about AI prediction? The passiveness really comes from the fact that you have to give it some input, it will give you some output. So that means you always have to do something, give it that input and expect an output, and then you have to process that output and do something for it to become useful. So this is what I mean by passive in this context. Now, what does Agentic AI change? Agentic AI does 4 things that is very different from what I just described as passive. So one very fundamental aspect is perception. So what do I mean by perception? You could think about it as when you're building ML models, what would we typically do? We build data together, we build a lot of pipelines, we feed that data into the ML model and train it in order to do the things that I just described. And that's what you could think of as data sources and context. But the nice thing about agentic systems is you can build this context over many, many millions of data sources and signals, and you can actually figure out how to leave it to the agentic AI system to continuously figure out which of these data sources is useful for the following things it has to do. So in other words, you can throw a bunch of data at it, let it figure out what it can do, and then keep going with what the system has to do further. So that's one principle. Think about it as perception/context building. The next aspect of what agentic systems do is that they make decisions. So why is this possible today? You could say, hey, isn't prediction and classification also decision making? It is, but the way ML typically works by itself is that someone has to teach it when a decision has to be made. And the difference in agentic systems is that you don't have to teach it because it's using LLMs in the background to build the reasoning loop. And LLMs are capable of doing that because it has generative AI baked in. So that's the second part. The third part is about taking actions. So you have to prompt the system. In the backend, it's still an LLM. So you still have to prompt it to say, what are the actions, likely actions that you want the system to do, given it has this context, and given it has a certain set of decisions that it can take. And once these actions are in place, now there's also learning and adaptability that can be baked in. So now you have this continuous self-learning system which you can tune and decide is not doing well, because you can use LLMs again to actually do what we call as self-rating, auto-evaluation, using LLMs in the background. And so you bring in a fair amount of validation and trust into the output that you want to build. Now, why is all of this important? Because in the past, before we brought these types of AI into our systems, when we build, let's say, data analytics systems or systems that have front end, back ends, what is the thing that software engineers always did? They built for highly deterministic systems. If then else, for lack of a better word, right? But most AI systems, especially when you bring generative AI and agentic AI together, are probabilistic, which means that you have a probability number of saying what the output will be. You can't be 100% deterministic. And that's why the process of having auto-evaluations and trust and security is very important, because you have no idea actually what the output is going to be unless you iterate many times, which Kirti will actually talk about a little bit in his demo as well. What does all of this do, these 4 aspects? It actually helps you to build goal-based autonomous systems. And this has been something that those of you who have read books on AI, films on AI, you've probably seen this in many different versions. That future is here now. You can build goal-based autonomous systems that have the danger also on the side of doing things that you cannot predict. And that's why all of the safety, reliability, and security that you have to build into these systems is also important. So now, oh sorry, we lost the screen. Okay, I think the next slide was going to talk about industries. So what I'll do is, I think we have lost, oh great, thank you. So in the interest of time and also maybe focusing on some few other topics I thought may be interesting for students, I won't take all these examples, but I'll take one because I think Mr. Prasad Garu said earlier that you're focused on transportation engineering, am I right? Yeah, so I thought maybe you can also ask some questions on that as we go forward. So Mr. Prasad Garu also referred to this, right? Like the fact that we have autonomous vehicles today, right? And then this is not new, like all of you have heard about self-driving cars, Waymo in San Francisco, Uber trying it out, cars crashing, you've heard all these news. There's a lot of AI in that, it's not yet agentic. So now let's go back to the principles we just talked about, right? So we want perception, we want decisions, we want actions, and we want learning. Now think about a system for which you would use transportation for using these principles. And if you think about it citywide, and you happen to have self-driving cars, here's an example of what you want to achieve. Most of our systems today in cities have CCTVs. They understand the lay of the land, where traffic is going, what types of traffic, what time of the day. We have climate control mechanisms that tell us what the weather is. We also know how many traffic signals are there. We know the capacity of those streets. We know where parking lots are. But what don't we do today? We don't manage all of this together. So in other words, we don't have a system that manages the whole city using all of these elements of data together and say, how do I have a city where traffic actually moves? A problem that those of us who live in Bangalore actually resonate with and actually want to correct. Unfortunately, that problem isn't solved yet. Maybe this is a problem like Mr. Govind Garu was saying, one of you can pick up as a unicorn idea and go solve. I'm sure like hundreds of techies in Bangalore will pay a lot of money to solve that problem. So the thing you could do is you basically analyze all of the data that you get from cars, where are they going, and you don't have to be self-driving cars. A lot of cars have electronic systems today that can broadcast data. You connect it to information that you get from CCTV cameras about where the traffic jams are. You understand where available parking systems are, where you get that data as well. Wrap it all around agentic MCP servers, as we call it, Model Context Protocol. We can talk about it later for those of you who are interested. Bring it all together, and you can teach it to now do the things that we talked about. So what's the goal? Before a traffic signal gets jammed, divert traffic to other routes where you don't have heavy traffic. Before cars get jammed onto a road trying to find parking spot, divert it to available parking lot systems. So these are simple examples. I know it sounds like it's complicated, but it's actually fairly simple if you can get these systems to actually exchange data through agentic systems. So I want to shift gears a little bit, since we've given an example of how an industry could transform to, I'm guessing I've lost control of this again. Do you want to shift the, I think we can just shift to the next slide. So I'll talk a little bit about industry disruption. And some of the examples I take, maybe not all of you are familiar with. So I'll end with an example you can all connect to. So one example is this company called Chegg, C-H-E-G-G, very popular Bay Area company. And what Chegg used to do was, or rather still does, is it answers Q&A. So it was a very popular app for students. people who just wanted to learn. Guess what happened when ChatGPT came out? Everybody left Chegg and went to ChatGPT because you just ask it a question, gathers data from a bunch of sources, summarizes it, and gives you the key points that you needed. Chegg lost 83% of its value in 2 years. Okay, let's talk about Shutterstock. Anybody here who knows the company Shutterstock? Okay, so Shutterstock, for those of you who don't know it, basically had a business model where it would gather different types of images for various kinds of uses. You could use it in marketing collateral, in comms, in PR. Basically, you pay a licensing fee and then you use it, and that was your business model. Within a year, Shutterstock lost 50% of its value because of image generation capabilities that both Google and OpenAI brought out. So these are industry disruption models that AI brings about. I'll talk a little bit later about how, if you want to stay alive in the tech world today, you have to figure out how to use AI, otherwise you get disrupted. So now let's talk about something that all of you are very familiar with. I'm sure everyone here uses Amazon. Anyone who does not use Amazon? Okay, so I take it everybody uses Amazon. So you understand Amazon and you understand its business model, right? In June of this year, Amazon decided to disrupt itself. It played two roles. It played a defensive role and an offensive role because of the way agentic AI is potential to disrupt it entirely. So the defensive role that it played was, as some of you know, if you're a seller on Amazon, you basically can say, okay, here is my entire inventory, here is my pricing, and this is all exposed via an API for someone else as a sub-seller or an Uber seller to pick up and try to figure out redistribution. Also for Amazon itself to figure out how to do inventory management. So prior to what I'm going to describe, all of this was available through APIs. Because of the agentic shift, Andy Jassy himself decided that they are going to open up everything that's available on Amazon for public data use today behind agentic AI wrapped around MCP servers. Why did Amazon choose to do this? Because someone else can come in, take that same data that's available through APIs and drive users away from Amazon to do the equivalent of buy it for me. So what's a buy it for me scenario? It's my personal agent that's going to live on my phone. I'm going to create a wish list of everything that I want, not just from Amazon, but from any other site. I'll give it my payment credentials, and the app will buy it for me when it's available. Use the best coupons, find the best deals, wait for, let's say, a Thanksgiving or a Diwali sale, and then figure out when to buy it and deliver it to my doorstep. Guess what happens if that becomes true, and let's say some venture capitalist funds this, and it actually becomes a true story. Amazon gets fully disintermediated. There's no need for Amazon as a site to exist anymore. And so that's a defensive role that Amazon chose to play. But Amazon's also playing an offensive role. So what's the offensive role is basically saying, I have the right to take away this capability at any point in time. And in parallel, they are building the buy it for me equivalent. Why is Amazon in a position of strength in order to do the buy it for me themselves? Because Amazon has a psychological value for its users that no new entrant in the business can, which is what Amazon has great customer service, great trust, and none of your payment data has ever been leaked, frauded, or scammed because you shared it on Amazon. No one else can guarantee this. So Andy is going to play on this psychological trust and figure out how to actually do the equivalent of buy it for me directly on Amazon.com. This is important because if he's not successful, $59 billion worth of revenue goes down the toilet. That's how much money that Amazon makes from its advertising business by doing sponsored and specific placements of products on their website. So hopefully you get an idea of what disruption really looks like with AI and how the industry is reacting to that. So if we can just, I think we can move on from here as well. So I'll talk a little bit about challenges. There are definitely integration complexities. Although we talked about the fact that, hey, like the transportation example that we took, there's a lot of different ways in which you can do that. You can use that example and understand the integration there. Fundamentally, the integration challenges center around data, creating pipelines out of it, making it more structured or leaving it unstructured. Choices are yours. Doing image processing perhaps on top of that, including video processing. Also managing security and all kinds of trust systems on top of that. And Kirti again will give you some examples on reliability and SLAs that also becomes a part of this problem. So these are all part of your integration complexities if you're trying to do something large scale and take something into production. I'll skip to skill gaps. I'm sure there's a lot of us, including folks in the audience, who have to figure out how do we learn how agentic systems actually work when you're trying to codify it. A lot of what I'm talking about right now probably sounds theoretical to you, which is why we're going to try and actually show a demo very quickly to you to see if you can put your heads around together for it. But the skill gap is something I think we have no choice but to go figure out how to learn for reasons that I just talked about in the last 10 minutes or so. Please avoid resistance to change because the change is already here. Right? Like I said, the examples are very vivid. I don't think any of us have a choice. I don't think we can sit down and say, I'm going to learn C, C++, Python, and that's going to get me a job. That's not necessarily true. You may get something, but it's not going to help you to grow further in career and or in the industry. So for organizations, I think some of you here represent various companies. There's only a few things that I would be able to recommend. We have to converge what I'd call as the technology, business, and talent. And what I mean by that is we have to think about how the business itself has to change because of the earlier slide on what talent is going to bring to the table. And then how is your business model going to change, aka the examples of the industry changes and the disruption that I described. And also you have to redefine then who's your customer. Are you still focusing on the same customer as before? If you are, refer the Amazon example. How will you change the way in which you deliver that value because of these technology shifts? And the last part is AI is very dangerous if you don't use it safely. There's much more security issues and holes that LLMs can generate than any other technology that's been available so far. So think about how you actually ensure those security layers are built and how you do enough red teaming, build enough ways to actually test your systems and iterate it before you deploy it out into the world. And one last thing for employees, if you want to think about it as, those of you in the audience who are yet to become employees but will become future employees, is as individuals, we have to focus away from building something and give it out versus becoming curators and orchestrators. So what do I mean by that? You're no longer just designing by yourself. You could potentially say, I'm going to build only one AI agent, but I'm going to make completely something different by bringing multiple agents together and offering a completely different service. That's the example of what a curator would do, which means your idea no longer, your output no longer is about designing, but it is more about being innovative and being more idea discovery. So you have to shift a little bit on what you're being taught and how some of us may be operating if you're early in career, because these changes is what's really going to help you take advantage of agentic AI. I think that's the last slide. I'll hand over to Kirti, who will do a really quick demo for you on something that he built himself.
Hello, hello. Hey everyone, so I'm Kirti. I'm a product manager in Google. So according to me, the biggest shift that AI has brought in is the ability to create software super duper fast, right? And I wanted to select a demo that sort of showcases that, that I built. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is a multi-agent conversation simulator. So what you can do is, you can define personalities from any period of time, define a topic, and the AI agents will converse in real time on that topic. Now, why this demo first? For me, it's a living textbook. think of the educational opportunities here. You can have people that wouldn't be in the same room ever, people from different time frames of different personalities, a philosopher, a poet, an artist talking about a topic and giving you deeper insights about it. And you can actually feel the conversation rather than just reading it textually. So a year ago, building all of this would have taken you days, but I did this using Cursor, which is a vibe coding tool or a coding assistant, within 2 to 3 hours. That's it. Yeah, so I think let's see it in action and let's see how it turns out, and hopefully it works out well. So the conversation here is between Ronaldo, who's a famous footballer, and I also think like I wanted to pick something that actually connects with people rather than some use case that people don't understand. So here's Ronaldo, one of the personalities, and another AI agent here is Elon Musk, the entrepreneur. And they would be having a WhatsApp call on AI versus athletic instinct. Let's see what they talk about, and hopefully this works. So it's going to take somewhere around 15 seconds to 16 seconds for AI agents to get loaded up, some calls being made, and then the conversation should get started. Voice.
Replicate the feel for the game, developed through years of hard work and dedication. That split-second decision to take a shot or pass, that's...
Will AI just do everything, and are we in a world where computer science core skills are not required? That is absolutely false. Let's take it to another level now. Let's suppose I wanted to take this into production, and what that means is actually deploying it, building a CI/CD pipelines, hosting it in a server. That would actually take a lot of effort, right? And a lot of core computer science skills would be required there. Think about this, whether you wanted to build an AI agent which is a clone of yourself and could actually take your calls for you, forward you the right calls, respond to certain messages. That is a lot of work which will be required in terms of integrations that you would have to do. Obviously, LLM is going to help you on the way, but having core computer science skills is extremely important for you to be a successful engineering and build something innovative from here. So a couple of points and takeaways that I would want the group to take away. So one is you can obviously build prototypes fast. You can iterate on them faster using vibe coding tools, Gemini, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and that sort of is really empowering for creators. The second thing is POC is not production ready. What I built here does not solve for scale. It's not yet scalable. It's just locally hosted on my machine. So you still need those skill sets to be able to take it to production. And the third thing I would say is that, yeah, you should get your hands dirty. Only when you do it, you will understand the kind of prompts that are actually required for you to be build successful applications, right? How specific you have to be. A lot of times when we're dealing with people who prompt, they will use generic words like, can you improve this? Can you make this better? This does not help AI to understand what exactly do you want. So being extremely specific in your prompts will help you build the right kind of applications that actually deliver value. And the last thing I would say is this is the best time to build right now, and people should get their hands dirty and actually start building. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirti. I think we can take 5 minutes for questions if any people want to ask questions. Anyone has any? I think there's one person here. I can repeat your question if you like.
So you were talking about the agentic AIs being proactive, and I believe that means a context-aware system, right? So in a system, let's say you have a software and you want to make it context-aware, I believe you have to build personas of users using it and know why they're there in the first place and help them proactively. Am I right?
You don't have to. It depends on your application. So, for example, if you have generic users, and let's say you divided those sets of users into personas, And if you take Amazon again as an example, at a very generic level, you have buyers and sellers. So you can say a buyer is a persona that I'm targeting, a seller is a persona that I'm targeting. So it depends at that level of genericity to, let's say WhatsApp, I have a million personas because each person is a persona. And you can still be very personal and context specific because you're going to use all of that information which WhatsApp will not allow you to use, but I'm using it as an example. You can do many wonderful things if, for example, you are WhatsApp and you're choosing to do things with the data that your WhatsApp conversation has. WhatsApp can become your Buy It For Me app. And many other things too, by the way, right?
Yeah. So so this is all about big companies, right? Google,
Yes.
Facebook, and so and so.
Yeah.
They would have, for different personas, I mean, seller, buyer, yes, broadly, but for different personas, like you said, million personas, right? A common entrepreneur would not have such data.
So the beauty of LLMs is you
Yeah.
don't need that much data,
Yeah.
right? Like what Kirti was talking about. Is it 11 Labs, Kirti? Yeah. So 11 Labs is this company where you can take, I don't recommend you do this because it does create copyright issues, but you can take a YouTube video of Elon Musk, feed it to 11 Labs and say generate his voice and feed it into the app that Kirti, we actually tested this. But we don't want to show it because we don't want to be sued for liability and whatever. So, but you can do this, right? So the amount of data that you need is so tiny with the help of LLMs and generative AI today that you are no longer under any kind of issues as an entrepreneur or even a student to do many, many wonderful things today.
Yeah, and still augment it with actual context-based
Real
data.
world
right?
data, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of you know this, but the world is full of open data.
Okay.
Like there's a ton of data out there that you can use to do so many wonderful things. You can go search for open data sets. There's so much of it that you can use and do really amazing things.
Okay, last question. So I'm a data science product manager. I'm a Kite alumni.
Okay.
So I have a team and I'm trying to structure it to do requirements gathering for scenarios like this. So how do you do it? Like you create personas and you create user stories, and if anything is proprietary, I don't know.
No, okay. So it depends on the scale that you're going after, right? And the speed at which you want to iterate. The moment you say user stories, personas, and CUJs, which I'm thinking you're also thinking about, you're immediately boxed in. Because you have to first identify the CUJs, and then you have to say I have to build a persona for that, and then I have to build the task flow. You're doing things the old way. You have to shift your mind to actually doing it the new way, which is you let the LLM decide who do you want to actually serve and in what way. And you do it iteratively because you can't let the LLM decide to do everything on its own. So you have to do it in small slivers, if that makes sense. You first roll out for a small group of users, you evaluate if that's what you want, tune the prompt again, send it out to more. So it's iterative development. It's no longer build for the large box, ship it, wait for V2, wait for V3. That's no longer the way they can build.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we have something there.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
So you have explained about this agentic AI, how AI agents will control all the data and all the operations. At present scenario, we have the human in the loop so that a human can oversee what the agentic AI is doing. But in the near future, the LLMs are becoming so powerful that they can surpass the intelligence of human being at some point of time. And in the other side, we are saying that humans won't lose their job because of AI. But still we can see that AI is doing a lot of jobs of which humans can do. So how big leaders like Google are trying to balance this in the industry?
Actually, Google is the wrong example, right? Google doesn't get anything by saying we are going to save jobs. The Googles of the world is trying to say what different kinds of jobs can you do. So the reality, I think, is that AI will reduce repetitive tasks that don't require human level complexity to solve. So what do I mean by that? When I tell a system today, like you go to Yatra or you go to Amazon, you're telling Amazon, show me all Nike shoes priced less than 2,000 rupees. That is an AI search. It's doing it for you. Previously, what would you do? You would actually have to go to a search engine, compare, contrast, etc. Right? Fast forward to today, you can take that same query, give it to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, do all of that, find me a store near me, apply all the latest coupons, and give me the link to actually place the payment, because buy it for me doesn't exist just yet, right? So think of those as repetitive tasks. But if you're going to tell AI, diagnose this cancer that I'm seeing in this MRI and prescribe the medicines for this patient, look at his or her medical history, make sure he or she doesn't die. Do you think we're ready to give that to AI?
No,
I don't think so.
No, not at present.
So, but it can, like Dr. Anand Garu was also saying, we can reduce the amount of work a doctor can do or has to do in order to provide an answer with his inbuilt expertise to a patient. So the more number of patients a doctor can see is increased by the his ability to use AI. Does it mean doctors are not going to exist? I don't think so. So I think it's a balance. It's not like everybody's job is going to go away and we are all going to be sipping margaritas on the beach. We still have to figure out how to add value in different ways. So we think differently, we apply our skills differently.
I think people must get educated on this concept of how to use AI, where to use AI, and where not to use AI, perhaps.
Perhaps, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sure. Yeah, all right. So we are available later. I think there are more questions, but we're running out of time. We can meet at lunch if those of you have more questions. Thank you for your time. You've been a wonderful audience.
Thank you, Mythreyee Ganapathy and Kirti Singh Dhawaj. It's such a thoughtful and insightful session. Indeed, a powerful concept that defines a shift in AI implementation. Thank you for that. And a small token of appreciation for you guys by Nagaraju Allah. Thank you.